Welcome to the RD2BE podcast. Each week we sit down with a different registered dietitian nutritionist to showcase the diversity of opportunity in the dietetics profession. Our aim is to dismantle the notion that there is a traditional career path. I'm Carl Barnes, the registered dietitian behind the scenes of RD2BE.
And I am Jenna Warnock, the RD2BE host. Our RD guests share their stories, career paths, and advice to help students like us succeed in the profession. This episode is part of our mini-series featuring the Accreditation Council for Education in Nutrition and Dietetics, otherwise known as ACEND. We are creating this series to clear up common confusion and misconceptions about ACEND and its relation to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, as well as the Commission on Dietetic Registration. We're also in a super transformative phase of dietetics with a new master's degree requirement, dietetics application process, and ACEND also created some new advanced practice doctoral standards where understanding these topics are crucial for pushing our profession forward. Join our conversation with Dr. Rayane AbuSabha. She's the Executive Director of ACEND, and in this series, we're going to discuss what ACEND is, their new standards, and what steps you can take to uplift and advocate for our profession with these standards. Welcome back to another week of the RD2BE podcast. I'm your host, Jenna, and this week we are sitting down yet again with the wonderful Dr. Rayane AbuSabha, who's the Executive Director of ACEND. She has been an absolute wealth of knowledge over the past couple of episodes that we've had her sharing things about the new graduate degree requirements, what the doctoral standards are looking like, and also just overall professional development with job application processes, negotiating salary. She's just kind of from every angle that you could be successful as an aspiring dietitian. She has been here to help us out. And so this episode, we're kind of rounding out all of these episodes that we've been having towards professional development, and we're ending with honestly where right before your dietitian journey begins, which is that interview where, maybe you're about to take the RD exam or you've passed it and now you're an RD and you're about to go out and do those wonderful dietitian things. Well, Dr. AbuSabha is here with us till the end to give us some wonderful interviewing skill pieces of advice because she's gone through the process of hiring people, seeing what things to do, what things not to do, how to prepare. And so what you can expect with this episode is to have us walk through that life cycle of the interview process of first the preparation, the during, and the after. And so, Dr. AbuSabha, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thanks, Jenna. What a great introduction. I feel very honored, but I'm very happy to be with you today.
Of course, yes. And so similarly to what I mentioned previously, just kind of starting with the overall beginning of the process of first developing those skills. And so when it comes to interviewing skills in general, it is very much its own just subset of skills to have. It's always great to have in your tool belt, and especially if it's not familiar for anyone listening in. Do you have any pieces of just overall tips and advice for developing interview skills?
Yeah, so you mean some of the things that we always say, first, you have to prepare, you have to practice, and you need to make sure you address, you have the right demeanor and the right attitude. So those are the things that really kind of help you out with the interview process.
And I think it's great because all of those types of skills, like you always hear, preparing, practicing, whether it's like public speaking, whether it's presenting something, those types of skills are definitely applicable in other things outside of interviewing. But I think it's great to kind of start first, lay the groundwork of what actions you'll have to do before you even do an interview to make sure that you really have those down pat. Because again, every interview will be a little different, but you still have those foundational skills that you'll need no matter what interview you do. And so first starting with preparation, what do you do to prepare and what does that process look like?
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a bit of preparation to do. I have to say, I look at interviewing just like having an exam. You have to study for it and you have to really do your homework. The first thing, the most important thing is do your research. You have to research, investigate the company, investigate if you're applying for grad school, investigate the university, the dietetics program, investigate the place. Go on their website, read the website. And as you're reading the website, try to take notes. Take notes. Take notes about questions you have to ask. All the things that intrigue you about it, things you notice. Do a good, thorough investigation. If you're applying for a job, look at the job description. Read it well. Look what they're asking for, what they're not asking for. Take notes again. You just want to make sure that you keep all these notes and do spend that time on it. Then, as you're going through the website of the company, let's say, make sure that you refine your questions to about 2 to 3 open-ended questions. For example, I don't just say, well, I saw this on your website. What did you think about it? Or I saw this on your website. I think this is what intrigued me, or something like this. I think more like a question like, I was looking at your website and I saw that you talk about so and so. Would you mind explaining further what that means? That just makes you look like you're curious. It tells me right away, ooh, they did their research, they're interested in the job. All of these little messages it sends, and you're not trying to tell me what to do, or you're not trying to come in as the expert here, telling us about who we are as a company. You're really trying to understand us, and that just gives this balance of being just the right new individual coming interested in the job. So and one of the things that I've always noticed, myself and all the directors with me at ACEND, who we do all the interviews together, we've noticed that we really are not interested in the candidates that don't have very good questions to ask us. We say, like, do you have any questions about us? No. Are you interested in anything? No. You told me everything I need to know. That is never an okay answer in an interview. Don't tell me I told you everything you need to know. In half an hour, there's no way I can tell you everything you need to know about a job. Make sure you have 2 to 3 questions ready, and you may only want to ask one of them. But you'll see how the interview is going, and you decide which one of them you're going to ask at the end when we're done. That's what you want to do. And so just make sure that you are ready for that. Then I would say there's another step on that. So now you did your research about the place and the job. Then you're gonna work on you. What are the skills? What are the things you have that will help you with the job? You're gonna start to write down answers and things about yourself. First thing, I'm sure you learned in class, develop an elevator speech. That's that 2-minute summary of who you are, your qualifications, and your strength. I would develop that speech. Don't memorize it word for word, just the gist of it, so that when they ask you, you can always bring it up and summarize that 2-minute elevator speech. Then you're going to write down your top 3 or 4 strengths. Not too many. 3 or 4 is a good number. And have examples for each of these strengths. I have attention to detail. What does that mean? I am always I am timely. What does that mean? I'm organized. How? Give a good example. Here's an example of a time when I showed my organization skills, or when my organization skills helped me out. These are the things you want to do. 3 to 4 top strengths with specific examples about them. Then you're going to come up with one area of improvement. People know you're not gonna make sure, please, that area of improvement is not something really serious, right? People know that you're going to come up with a soft area of improvement, but have one. It's nice to have one. So this is, I always say I have a hard time saying no, or I take on sometimes too many things, and then I would have to start prioritizing to make sure that I can get things done and start saying no. You can just say, I would like to be more comfortable presenting. Notice how none of them talk about your personality, any major faults. Not able to say no, that shows you're eager, that shows you're ambitious. So it's really a negative, but it's really a positive in some little ways. Not being comfortable presenting, everybody will kind of appreciate that people are uncomfortable presenting. So that's another one. You can just talk about it a little bit. I would not say that area of improvement if you're applying for a job where the main thing of the job is presenting. right? So you adjust the area of improvement that you provide. But don't say you're not organized. Don't say you're not timely, right? Don't say you don't have critical thinking skills. Those are major serious things you do not want to use as an area of improvement. Then look up online all the behavioral questions, just 10 or select 5 or 6 or 10 of them and write answers to each one of them. The reason you're doing that is not because you think you're going to be asked that same exact question on the interview. It's that you've prepared answers about yourself with examples and things. And then when they ask you a question, it might be related. You can pull that information and provide it on the spot. It just makes you more comfortable with having all that information right at the tip of your fingers. Now, when you're developing those behavioral questions, we always say use the STAR method. So the STAR method means you want to make sure you introduce the situation. That's the S, the situation. You want to describe the task that you did to be, what was needed to be done. That's the T for the task. Then you want to explain the action that you took. And finally, you want to describe the results in terms of the benefits to the company. When I worked so and so, we needed to look at improving this work. I worked on it, I improved it, and it resulted in increased efficiency and increased the budget. We made $500,000 more, or something like that. Make it specific with specific examples. When I was a faculty, I used to always give, whenever I interviewed, changing faculty jobs or thing, and people would ask me to interview, I always provided the example of how I came to the department. And with the department, we really had only 6 students. And this is what I did. I improved the curriculum. I added anatomy and physiology. I added exercise physiology. I added this. We established retreats with the faculty. See how all the examples of the tasks that I did and the actions that I've done. So the task was the situation where we didn't have enough students. The task was I needed to improve so we can have more students, what needed to be done, and the actions I took to do that so we can get those students. And then I would say, exam pass rates wasn't the best, and we wanted to improve that. So we did all of these curriculum changes. We applied all of that. And the results is we ended up with 100% pass rate. We ended up with, we went from 6 students per cohort to 45, 50 students per cohort in less than 5 years. See the results right there. That's how you want to set up your example. And then you practice. You practice your examples, you practice those questions, or you get a friend and let them come up with their own behavioral questions that they can find online and start quizzing you, and you can respond to them aloud, hear yourself answer. I always, in my head, I sound so much more eloquent than when I'm speaking. So hear yourself speak and you go, oh, I shouldn't be using this word, or I shouldn't be, making it, position it that way. I should posit this question a little differently. So it's always, all of these are very helpful. So that's where I would really prepare. And the final thing to do, and probably the easiest, is you want to prepare some questions about the job itself. Just a few questions about the job, because at the end of every interview, they're going to say, do you have any questions about the job to us? So one of the questions you're going to prepare is the one you find on the website. That would be one of your first questions. But you might want to ask one or two, no more, one or two more questions about the position. You want to understand the organization. You want to understand the role. You want to understand the work environment, how the team collaborates. Choose one or two questions and stop right there. So you don't ask many more questions. 2 or 3 is the maximum question you ask or that you prepare. So that's what I would do.
No, yeah, and I think for people listening in, they may be like, wow, that's a lot of things to kind of account for, and the interview hasn't even started, or wow, it's a lot of boxes to check. But you really only have that like 30 minute time to really shine and show your best self. And so you really want to make every minute count. And this was just a question that popped up to me as you were kind of going through all of these wonderfully fleshed out steps is how much time should someone expect to take preparing for an interview? It's like how much time should someone expect to invest preparing and practicing beforehand for that 30-minute interview, just so that people kind of know what to expect going in.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Great question, Jenna. And I don't know that I have an exact time, but you know me, I always like to give you the specifics. I was a teacher. I need to give the specifics. Um, I think you prepare as much as you want the job. If you don't want that job, you don't prepare a lot, right? And so, but I'll give you an example. For my position, of course, it was an executive director position. It was a lot of pressure. I was competing with very high level individuals. So I wanted to be very prepared. And I remember I spent about 2 weeks preparing and, just preparing questions and things like that. Maybe an hour here, an hour there, not a lot. Um, but then we were driving from, my husband and I had a 9 hour drive to go for Christmas and to visit family. And on that 9 hour drive, I had him quiz me for 9 hours. And I would just say, what if they ask me this? What do I do? And then the poor guy, he was trying to change topics. And then 5 minutes later, I go, okay, well, let's talk about the job again. So, and you know what? That I think I was so ready by the time that interview happened because I had practiced all the questions and I had everything I wanted to say in my head. And I knew these are good responses, and these were not good, and this is the strength, and that's not a good way to say this. Those 9 hours were really, really helpful. It really did help that he also, recruits a lot of people. So it was a really good coach, let's say, and you might want to find yourself a coach. But I would say for your first job, spend an hour on the website, an hour preparing the question, and maybe an hour practicing. I think it does not need to be a lot more than that. And if it's a job that you're really familiar with, you might not even want to spend an hour on the website. You might just write the questions that you have to ask because you know the website very well. So not too much. But again, depending on how high level of the job it is, you're going to have to prepare more.
No, absolutely. And I love how you honestly summed it up quite nicely where it's you prepare as much as you want the job. And I think that's even though, depending on the job that you're applying for, it may depend on how much you prepare, but you have that, kind of function, so to speak, of kind of going off of that. And I love how even though, it sounds like a lot, you kind of still boil it down to, hey, if it's your first job, it's okay. As long as you follow these steps, like you'll still be in a good position for when you do have that interview. So then kind of following down that conga line again, kind of practice, prepare. Once you get to that point, now you're, arriving to that interview and you make an important note on like dress and demeanor. And so we covered a whole episode on professionalism, which I think ties really nicely to this point. So if people want to know more just about professionalism in general in dietetics and why it's important, there's that episode. But now in the context of the interview, like, what specific recommendations do you have for dress and demeanor? Because both are very important in how you present yourself, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Like everybody tells you, when you see someone, it only takes that first 5 seconds for people to make a judgment on you. On your smile, on how you dress, everything. It doesn't take long. So you want to be at the right level. And I always say the right level is not one specific thing, right? It could be a variation of things. It could be you have a lot of leeway on how to dress, a lot of leeway on how to behave, but there are guardrails. I would just say avoid dressing too casually, right? Don't come in a sweatshirt. And these days, casual is very different. Casual used to, right? In my day, dressing casually used to be like a shirt and dress pants that would be considered casual. Now it's like don't go in your Lululemons, right? And watch out all the other things. Like you got to pay attention to everything. So I would say don't need to wear a suit. These days we're past suits. No one wears suits anymore unless you're going for of high business and position. No suits necessary. But present yourself in business casual, just a nice pants, nice shirt. A lot of colleges, universities do have career closets. If you need a suit, you can go wear that. I know I donated all my suits to my university because for the students to practice their interview skills. So, but just the rule of thumb is dress one step above the environment of the position. So you're going for WIC, you're going for a women, infants, and children job, and you know those WIC clinics are very casual. So just you're gonna dress casually, but a little bit, no sneakers, but some nice shoes, very, very casual shoes, casual pants, and just a shirt. You're going to a pharmaceutical company where they're doing sales and business, I'd say a suit is in order. So just always a little bit above the place. Look, watch your nails, right? This is not the time to have the longest nail possible with the brightest red out there, right? Be very conservative with that stuff. Earrings, you don't want flashy jewelry, flashy earrings. Be careful. All of that stuff says something about you. So just be as simple as you can. The simplest, the better when you are going for dress. Then also make sure that your hair is well combed. Yesterday, we had this individual come and meet with us. My goodness, I mean, they look like Einstein. And I'm going, you're meeting with these top dietitians. And it's like you haven't even combed your hair. So, like, these things you really have to watch for. And it took me 5 minutes to take the person seriously. In the end, they were very serious and wonderful, but you have that 5 seconds, you form that judgment, and then it takes a while to change your judgment. I'd say look presentable, very clean, well groomed. Some people will look at your shoes. So if it's an in-person interview, watch out for your shoes. If it's a virtual interview, make sure that your shoes are clean, right? Because they're going to judge you sometimes. If your shoes are not clean, they're going to go, this person may not have attention to detail. And then if you're virtual, don't put yourself in a dark spot so they cannot see your face. You really need to make the environment well lit. Pay attention to the little details. They all say something about you. Now, your demeanor. There's nothing less attractive to a boss or interviewer is to have somebody who looks like Eeyore. They don't, they have no personality. They're not trying to be motivating. They're just sad and quiet. And you want to sound a little bit, upbeat on the positive end, excited, upbeat, in a good, balanced way. Everything is balanced. I tell you, one time I did not hire somebody because I said, oh my God, she overwhelmed me over an interview. She was so upbeat, I could not take her. I can't imagine her working for me. Like, it would drive me crazy having somebody beyond, like, always, upbeat on you. So again, I'm saying that balance of having somebody who is just the right positivity, right smile, positive view. And then the one last thing I want to say is many of us interview with people who are not within our generation, right? Right now, at my age, I'm probably, if let's say I go out to interview, I'm probably being interviewed by somebody who is a millennial, right? So I have to now watch out because, I'm a Gen Xer. I need to be watching out. Maybe the way I deal with things is different than they do. They would like things more casual. The most important thing, our students these days are Gen Z. And if you graduated a few years, you're millennials. Be careful because you're being interviewed often by baby boomers and by Gen Xers who are a little bit less casual and more professional. So just don't slouch and think it's too casual and you go, hey, how are you? That is not going to work. They're going to get offended. So keep it together and try to be as professional as you can. Then you can match everybody else's levels.
No, definitely. And I think, you know, like some of these things, some people may be like, well, yeah, you want to be groomed. You want to dress nicely. But I think you are sharing all of this because of your personal experience of seeing people who have come into interviews and what you have seen. And I think um, everyone can glean something from that, or at least knowing that people out there do exist. You could then be that person that shares it with those types of people that you may know that may think things are too casual. Be like, hey, you should actually maybe like wear that polo shirt instead when you go into that interview. So even if like some of these things it may not apply directly to you, with COVID, and we talked about this with the professionalism episode, COVID's really like affected professionalism and how different people interpret it because some people may have just never been exposed to the need to be more professional. And so people don't know what they don't know. And so this is still a very important topic and more important, honestly, now more than ever. And on the topic of, I'm really glad that you brought up interviewing with different generations and how it could be like interviewing a generation down or a generation up. Like it's really doesn't matter the order. It's just you could be interviewing with a different generation. But are there fundamental, like regardless of the generational differences, just how someone should make sure that they carry themselves? So, like in case they don't know what generation they're dealing with going in, just some tools or skills that they can kind of know ahead of time, like, okay, no matter what, I should at least do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say always be professional, be interested, always smile, and dress business casual. You cannot miss any of those. And I will tell you, and not too much jewelry or too much flash. Then you know, if I'm somebody who come from a generation who likes flash, let's say, and like and it's too casual, I would just say, oh, it's their personality. I'm not gonna think twice about it. If I'm somebody who but if you have too much personality or too casual, you might offend the other person. So once you just do that balance, you can be fine. But I have to tell you, Jenna, when I'm interviewing someone, I am I realize not everybody's like me, but I am somebody who will look at the entire person. I'll look at your shirt. I'll look at your hair. I'm judging you because I have only this half hour with you, and I'm gonna use everything you show me to make a judgment if you're gonna fit in my team or not. And so every little thing, you have big hoop earring, I made a judgment on that. It could be that I'm like, wow, she's very creative. Maybe. I don't know. It has to depend what kind of hoop earrings you have. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but I am judging everything. You have funky glasses with orange and lights and stuff. I'm going, wow, she's creative. I need creative people on my team, right? So and you may not be creative at all. You may have gotten these glasses as a gift, but know that you are being judged on everything you're showing on that screen if it's virtual, because we do most of our interviews virtually. But in person, it's going to be also the way you dress, the way you walk, you know, how you respond. All of it, everything you do is being judged because we are trying to measure you up in comparison to the team that you're going to be trying to fit with.
And I don't
And
think,
so many people, Jenna, so many people do not do it right. When we interview, we get sometimes 200, maybe 100 applications, if not more. And then we interview about maybe 10, sometimes 15, and I can barely find one person I'm happy with.
mm,
So many people do not interview well or do not present well.
and do you find the common denominator to be the lack of professionalism or?
Not with us. No, I would say the times when we've had somebody who would lack professionalism, I can count on my hands,
Mhm.
on my fingers, on my
Yeah,
fingers.
multiple.
Well, there's two of them. But anyways, yeah. Yeah. So not too many. No, it's more demeanor. Not interested in the position is the number one reason I do not ask people. But it's always personality. For me, it's personality. That's big.
Yeah.
I've had a few managers that have applied to me. And the minute they open their their screen on Zoom, 5 minutes later, I said, I'm hiring them. I do not care. I forgot everybody before them, and I'm forgetting everybody behind them, and I close myself up and I'm hiring them
Mhm.
because just the way they come out and their personality and their interest and their smile, I can just see that they fit and they're smart and they can handle issues. We had, for example, one who we were interviewing them, and right there within 5 minutes, within a minute of the interview, the Zoom didn't work for them. And I was like, oh, let's see how good they are in technology, right? Did not miss a beat, was doing this, did not get flustered. And later, I can tell now that I know her well, I know she was very flustered, but did not show it one bit. And she's like, oh, so sorry, this, I can't believe this happened. Continued on. Huge, huge positive notes. These are the things you are trying to look for.
Absolutely. And I hope that, the people listening in, like hearing the, oh, they're judging every aspect of you, that it's not coming from a point of to go in being scared. It's more mainly to go in so that you are prepared, you know what they're looking for. And also that means that you should also be just as scrutinizing, honestly, for the position because you want to make sure that both sides see each other as a good fit and that you want to show that you've done your research and that you have also vetted them just as much as they're vetting you because you only have so much time with each other to see if you guys are a good fit that you want to make the most of it, where it's not just you being the one that's being judged, but you are also judging the company. You're seeing what their mission, their values are, if you align with it. So, very much not seeing it from a point of fear, but mainly just intentionality and making sure that you have all your boxes checked.
Yeah, Jenna, you just made me think of something is it's not about fear, it's about practice, right? So if you are applying for positions, my recommendation, apply for a lot of positions, and some of them you may not want, but you're practicing to interview. And I would just say set the ones that you're not as interested in, maybe before the one you're really interested in. So this way you can practice the interviewing, see how it works for you. And then by the time you really get to those one or two that you want, you have had a little bit of practice behind you. I mean, why not? Practice. I know some people who practiced an interview and on that interview they realized they loved the job and they wanted it. So, but that could be one way to do it. The more you practice your interviewing skills, the better you get at it.
Absolutely. And I think, and that's such a great point to bring up too, because like, yes, you have the mock interviews. Yes, you can have 9-hour car drives with your spouse to kind of go back and forth. But I feel like nothing beats the practice of an actual interview being your practice. And all that's going to do is give you a potential opportunity that you didn't know exist. So it really is a win-win on all fronts where you get the realest practice imaginable. And then, hey, you learn about this company that you may have never had the opportunity to speak with before, and that could open up another gate of opportunity. Um, and so now, and we've kind of prefaced a little bit things to do in the interview, like with the demeanor, carrying yourself. I think this now segues really well just into overall tips now for when people are in the interview, because you don't want to be fake, you do want to be authentic, but there's so much nuance to it that I definitely want you to dive into all that nuance for people.
Yeah, yeah, you said it. Be yourself. Be yourself, maintain a professional composure, be who you are, don't change who you are. Because they want to interview you as a person and they want to see that you are who you are and that you fit the company. So be who you are. We all know that not everybody's perfect, right? But it's really how you conduct yourself in an interview, showing resilience. Like I said, with that individual that had the computer issues, and how you navigate difficult situations. These are all the things that show who you are. If you make a mistake, or let's say they ask you a question, and this has happened to me many times, and they're just like not sure, you can ask them to repeat the question. That's okay. You can ask them to just say, can I just, this was a loaded question. Can you give me time to think? I remember it happened to me with the 9-hour practice drive, right? We decided, I needed a higher level area of improvement than I don't give good presentations because at that level, really, that's not or saying I cannot say no, that would be very detrimental for my position. So I needed a better area of improvement. So I came up with, which is very true, you had to be genuine. It's not lying. You have to really be genuine. And it was that I'm very direct. I'm very direct in how I deal with situations. So I prepared that. I prepared everything I have to say about it. And then the day of the interview, they asked me what's an area of improvement. I said, well, I am very direct. Literally, one of the individuals in the room put their hand on the table and goes, how are you direct? And I'm like, oh my God, I did not prepare for that one. So, right? I'm like, oh, you know, you're going to get surprised. It's going to happen. But, you know, you just have to be ready for that. And we're just looking at you and how you deal with it for sure. So another thing, when you're in the interview, don't forget that they're interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them, right? That doesn't mean you grill them with questions. But no, like just look, you know, evaluate the people. Is that a boss I want to work for? Is that a group of people that sounds good? Is the job overwhelming? Is it the environment I'm looking for? Also, make sure that you see yourself as an employee in this position. That's very important. You feel free to take notes during the interview. You can take a couple of notes. Sometimes me taking notes helps me think. Some of us can think when we take notes. Up to you. Just say, if you don't mind, I'm going to be taking notes. Or, you know, this is very interesting. I would like to take notes. You know, you can just make sure you say that. Taking notes, it might help you out. Second, when they ask you a question, your answer should not be 6 minutes long. Okay? That you lose me. I am not hiring you. I want your answer to be a minute. One time, I think one person, their answers were so long. By the time 40 minutes went by, we barely could ask 3 questions. I mean, there's no way I'm hiring that person. Could you imagine them being in my staff meeting? I would get nothing done. So make sure your answer is balance the length. You don't want to say yes or no or 2-word answers. You answer, you describe the situation, what's your role, how you solved it, the benefit, and you stop. Not a very long, prolonged thing. And then at the end, always balance the number of questions that you ask. I've said that several times, that you ask. I would say 3 questions is a good number. 2 is okay. 4 is okay, going on more. No more. 4 is max. I would say 3 questions is a good number of questions. 1 question showing that you've read their website or you're asking questions about the program. 2 questions is about, you know, what happens. What are the things you don't want to ask questions about? I wasn't thinking. So 2 questions are, for example, about the role. What is the employment like? What is the environment? What are the collaborations? What's the team like? Those. Now, the questions you do not want to be asking, that's very important. Don't ask salary now. Until they hire you, until they call you for that job, don't ask the salary. Let it go. Don't ask when you have time off and when are your vacations, blah, blah, you know, don't ask that. Avoid, like, what happens with snow emergencies? What happened if I do this? I'm afraid to drive. I had somebody who told me on an interview that they're afraid to drive in the snow. And they were talking about the anxiety snow gives them. I was like, okay, you're not getting hired, because we live in New York at the time. And yeah, you get 12 inches of snow at a time. Don't be asking about sick leaves. If they give them to you, that's fine. So all these benefits, don't ask. This is HR, human resource questions, right? You can ask, for example, how many employees will work under me, or if it has responsibilities, what are the responsibilities of the job? You can ask how much travel, but then don't show that you do not like to travel. If the job has a lot of travel, then you're not getting the job, right? Don't be telling them that you need special accommodations. Oh, I need half hour to take off every so and so. We had somebody say that they smoke and they need their break for smoking. Right there, you're done for. You know what I mean? Don't share personal things. We had someone talking to us about their parents, how they're taking care of their parents. That did not matter at all to the interview, but you really should not be bringing personal things in the interview. Not things about your family. Those are not, we're not allowed to ask you about them. You're not allowed to tell them. Yeah, I mean, don't tell them about them. You're allowed to, but don't tell them about them. That's advice. Don't tell us like, oh, I need a quiet environment. It's very difficult for me to work in this environment. Don't make yourself look like a difficult to handle employee. And trust me, so many do this. That is one of the biggest things people do.
Yeah, and I think it's also, this is why these types of episodes are important, because with each of these bullet points you've given, you've directly been like, because one time someone did this, one time someone did this. And I think it's so important to have these types of insights because someone may be like, oh, like they may think that that's totally normal, but hearing from someone who does interview people, really getting that flushed out, like what's okay, knowing what those guardrails are, exactly to what you mentioned of where am I good to, because I think it's like, you have the guardrails, those boundaries, and then who you are in the middle where the ball goes, that's you being your genuine self. Like you have that flexibility to be your genuine self, present who you are, but you still have those guardrails of professionalism to make sure that you put on the best version of your authentic self so that you do seem positive but not like overbearing, and that you do seem professional but also interpersonal, good to work with, like you're not just like a brick wall. It's very nuanced, but I think you're giving a lot of good clear cut things to focus on and things not to focus on, and adding a bit more into the things not to do. Is there anything else in part, because you've given really great examples of things not to do, but are there any other things that you want to highlight of just, list of things to definitely avoid doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a few things. For example, watch out for your bad habits, right? Uh, let's say you're somebody, your hair, myself, my hair is always bugging me, right? I'm always moving it for put spray on your hair or do something so that you're not doing that bad habit in the interview. You're doing it a few times, that's fine. It's when it becomes too much. For example, one time we had somebody who had a pen and taking notes, but kept clicking that pen the entire time or playing with the pen. But watch out for your bad habits. This happened in a presentation, not in an interview. Somebody had keys in their pocket and he was just playing with the keys in his pocket the entire time he was giving the presentation. You cannot do these things. Your bad habits will come through. So you really have to watch out for these bad habits. One was totally extreme. I'll give you the story of one very extreme. We had an individual who we interviewed her for a position and was so excited about the position. She told us that her and her partner were in the area looking for housing to buy a house. We haven't even offered her the position. Of course, we weren't going to offer it by that time. I mean, but like they were looking to buy a house in the area because assuming that she was going to get the job. Like that is not okay. So that's one. Never assume or never tell them you're assuming. We've had a lot of the disinterested people. One in particular, every question we asked, she was responding that, oh, I don't think you'll be interested in that, or I don't think you'd think this is a good thing I'm doing, but I'm doing this. Oh, I don't think this will be a good thing for ACEND, but I'm doing that. I'm going, then don't interview. Clearly, you don't want this job. Like literally, she talked us out of hiring her. So that don't. A recent one that we did, the individual I think did not understand the difference between the academy and ACEND, and did a phenomenal job doing all the background learning of academy. And the entire time kept talking about the academy and serving the membership of the academy and serving the practitioners and serving everything except not about faculty, not about academia, not about students. I think they could have been a great staff member of ACEND, but at that time I was checked out. So be careful when you do your research, you do it right. Again, not something to scare you. I've interviewed hundreds of people. These are one story each, so not many that happen. Trying to think. I wrote some of them down. Yeah, no, yeah, and then I'd say the major one is just having a very, very bland kind of personality. Monotone, no excitement, no interest in the job. Well, if you're not interested, why would I want to get you in my team? I want high level energy, high interested people who get, that are gonna jump in and do great things. So if you're like, yeah, I'm okay. hmm I could do this. I've had those. Those are a lot. You get a lot of those. And those right away are no-nos. I mean, other people might like it, but for me personally, I like a little bit more energy.
Yeah, and then the other side of it, because I'm sure, it's the opposite of, well, don't appear disinterested, appear interested. There's definitely if you don't do that, do the opposite. But are there other more unique things that you have been impressed for when people have done certain things that have caught your eye?
Yeah, honestly, I have to say the biggest thing I've been impressed with were the people who are genuine and have great personalities, and it came through. Because, like I said, I've had a couple of people that the minute I interviewed them, within 5 minutes, I knew they're the ones coming in. I knew. And those individuals now as staff are the exact same people I interviewed. You know what I mean? Like it's that personality, being energetic, smart. I look at intelligence, quick thinking, not getting flustered. Um, all of those things are really, really good ones that I look for. Truly, it's your personality for me is the number one thing. I can teach you things, but you need to be smart so that you are teachable, right? You need to have intelligence so you are teachable. I'm looking for that because if I don't see that you're not going to be a quick thinker or you're going to catch things, those are going to be, you know, difficult for us to teach. But truly, it's personality, a smile, excited about the job. Um, it's your personality. Just shine. This is the time for you to shine and show the best who you are. And people love warm, kind, and close people that have just happy and good and positive, balanced personalities.
No, absolutely. And I believe everyone, because someone may be listening to this and they're like, ooh, I don't think I act that way. Ooh, I don't think I portray myself that way. But I do believe everyone is capable of it as long as you are being your genuine self. Because when you're not putting on a face or putting on a facade, that's people can tell. That's when you start to trip up because you're spending so much mental energy on like keeping this certain like face present. But if you are fully present and if you are fully yourself, then that is seen. And then that does show off as radiance. That does show off as, being warm and kind because everyone's capable of that. You just have to allow your full personality to, like, fully who you are to be present. Because some people, yeah, may be concerned that they can't, but I think with the practicing of even practicing with mock interviews with, a friend or doing real interviews to practice, you're then able to honestly gauge like how you do feel being yourself. And then you can get live feedback where they're like, no, you definitely appeared more radiant, more kind, more warm and you like get that experimentation of knowing how you actually can be like that. So I think that's a
Yeah.
great piece of advice.
I love how you said that, Jenna. Like, be yourself. You're capable of it. I mean, the Ascent team, we're 13 people, and we have from super introverted to super extroverted, right? The quiet, to the big storytellers. We have it all, right? But they all share this high commitment, kindness, warmth, good team players. These are the things we're looking for. So my team, that's what I look for. So it didn't matter if you were a quiet person, but that energy that you have came through, that warmth came through the interview, and that's why you're on the team. So that's exactly, we have very introverted staff and we have extremely extroverted staff. And we are all, we're all women. So we're all like sisters together because we're all truly work so well together. and complement each other in every way. But it's the boss who's looking for certain, or the hiring recruiter who's looking for those certain qualities. What are those qualities that recruiter is looking for is what you want to meet. And that's, so by being your genuine self, you think, well, this is who I am. If they want this, then they can hire me. If they don't want this, then maybe I'm not the right person for the job. And you should be okay about that.
Exactly, because I believe this episode is not so much here's how to change your personality to have it fit this job. It is how do you fully optimize, like not optimize in like, the mainstream way, but how do you fully emphasize and capitalize on those genuine parts of you to have them really shine and be expressive to make the most of those 30 to 45 minutes that you have to really show for it. And so to make sure that we're able to cap this out, round it out. So, lots of great advice for preparing, for practicing, lots of great advice for during, how to truly let your authentic self shine. And then now to finally, end this cycle for the interview process. So then what advice do you give for people after the interview? How to really end on a good note?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should know this. You write the thank you note. Email, nobody's expecting handwritten notes. They take too long. Just an email, thank you, 2 lines. You can personalize it. I'm really excited. I'm thrilled about the position, or I really liked what I heard. I hope you consider me, whatever. I always go to AI and let them come up with a nice thank you note for you. You don't have to think twice about it. But you'd be surprised. About 10 to 20% don't write us thank you notes. And I go, did not get a thank you note from that person. Do I really want to hire them? Not so sure. See, I am traditional. And so I expect the thank you email. You have to be careful who is interviewing you, because they may be expecting the thank you email. You don't lose anything by sending it. And I say after that, you just let it go. Maybe in a week or two, if you didn't hear, or 3 weeks, you can just always, if honestly, I would always say, like, when do I expect to hear back from you? That is always a question you can ask. It doesn't count as a question. That could be the end of an interview that you can ask. But then if that time passed and you haven't heard, I might send another email asking about it. Because honestly, good companies should owe you a response back. And I'm always distressed when I hear that HR does not send, a sorry, we filled the position kind of email. But a lot of HRs don't do that.
Yeah, but I think that's good to kind of have the autonomy where you can, like we're asking when can we hear from you, and sending that thank you email. And then also you gave good insights into when's a good time to do a follow-up and check in if you haven't heard from anything. Because yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just knowing that balance of when's enough time to give, enough of a turnaround time, things like that. And I'm gonna have this part kind of cut out, but I just want to confirm because we're hitting to 4 and I don't want to take up more of your time. So do you want to end here, or I know that there's a last part where it says, what do you do if you're nervous?
Do you want to? I mean, I really don't care, Jenna. Do you think that's valuable? I don't know if that's valuable. We just talked about mock interviews. Do you want to say the Google warm up thing just finish it up with that?
Yeah, because it could be, hey, if people are wanting to look for
Yeah.
practice outside of, the things that we mentioned, do you have any
Why
other?
don't you say it? Why don't you say it and I wrote them down. Skillera AI, Final AI, Round AI, Sapia AI, Talently, Interviewer, and Huru, or including Google Interview Warm Up, are all warm up
Okay, gotcha.
companies. So you don't have to read all of them. You can just say a couple of them.
Yeah, and I can even lead it off to you to be like, hey, like
You
you've
say it.
been, oh, okay.
You say, I've talked too much.
Oh, shucks. So, no. Yeah, so thank you so much, Dr. AbuSabha, for sharing literally from start to finish great skills, great pieces of advice, and personal experiences of what you've seen firsthand for how people can make, for better or for worse, an interview process go the way that they want it to go. And again, leaning on being yourself, but providing those guardrails. And you also provided at the very end some really great pieces of direct resources that students can go to if, say, that you don't have access to mock interviews, say that you don't have a 9-hour drive on the holidays to talk to your spouse, or if you are just kind of trying to find bits and pieces of time to practice, but you don't necessarily have someone to do it with. She provided us with some, and we'll provide it in the description as well, with a bunch of different websites that you can practice. So there's the Google interview warm up, and it's Skillora.ai, there's Final Round AI, a lot of it's AI tools, which this is part of, again, leaning into technology. It's part of the innovation process, really just using it to your advantage. There's Sapia AI, which is like SAPIA AI. There's Talently, and then there's Interviewer, and then there's HURU, so like Huru. But we'll provide all of these resources in the description so that you can kind of explore, really get practice going. Because again, like everyone should be able to practice and have that accessibility. So thank you so much for sharing those resources just to top off such an info-packed meeting. Or
Thank you so much, Jenna. And I just want to say good luck to everyone. I just hope you all get amazing jobs. Did you hear, by the way, that dietetics has the lowest unemployment rate of all professions at 0.4% unemployment? Pharmacy has 3%, nursing has 1.3% unemployment. Dietetics has the lowest unemployment rate. So good job, everybody. You will all get a job. Good luck. I wish you the best.
And I love how just throughout, because we've been doing these episodes for so long, and I love how number focused you are, because that shows outcome driven and just really help reassuring things. And I think that's a great thing to end on because we're capping out on this series. We've done so many episodes, literally covering every angle of dietetics and how you can be the most successful dietitian. And I think that is such a great statistic to end on, and the assurance that those listening in, there is a job out there waiting for you. It's really just waiting for you to apply, do that interview. And with all these skills that Dr. AbuSabha has laid out for us along the way, I have no doubt that we're all going to be awesome dietitians. So thank you so much.
Thank you.